Hello everyone, welcome to the Roland Cloud Academy. I am Nutrix and together we will visit in depth the synthesis of the JD-800 model expansion for the Zenology Pro and Zen Core compatible hardware from Roland. Just to go back in time, JD-800, early 90s, with a full panel of control to make cool digital sounds. It was a big deal at the time, and it's still today a sound that people love and want to have. So Zenology or Zen Core is the best place to find it because it uses the same logic as Zenology Pro, the logic of 4 different partials to make one sound. If you don't have Zenology Pro or you don't know how to navigate through the Roland Cloud Manager, please visit the Roland Cloud YouTube channel where you're going to find all the answers for that. Put your headphones and we're going to actually make some sound with the JD-800. If you want to have anything that's Zenology Pro, you need to load it into your favorite DAW. So I have this screen here and you click on Edit to get the full control about making your own sound. Now I have Stack Attack. First thing to understand about the JD-800 is the way you're going to navigate the 4 different partials. The 4 partials are in that section here, the structure section. You've got layer and you've got active. Layer is to activate and deactivate the layers, basically, the 4 different sounds you're playing with. Now, you see when I turn it off, the section that becomes dark is the partial number 1. So that whole section here is one entire partial. If I click active, it's basically the one I'm going to see on screen that I want to actively edit. So if I click layer 1 and click active on second one, I'm actually editing partial 2, but listening to partial 1. So I'm not hearing what I'm doing. So be careful. You can see that if it's dark, it's turned off. It's not going to work. So click on active. So you see, and always verify at the top here, you've got partial 1. That's the one I'm working on. So that's not one I'm going to play with. This one has a filter opening up and closing. Second one, just listen to that one. This one has kind of a attack of some type of metallic attack. Third one now, activate it. Another type of synth. It's a synth pulse wave. And you have the last one, which is, this one starts right away, but it has a fade in on the volume. If you play all of them together. Now, one thing that is really interesting here is you can actually play soft. And a lot of things will change in it, not just volume. If you look at number 2, for example, you see that the velocity is also for how deep the movement of the filter will happen. Let's actually go through all of this, you'll see. Before we go into partials, you've got the tone common. So this is common for the whole sound. So it's going to be common for the 4 layers, 4 partial. You want it to be solo, so monophonic. You want to go solo legato. So if you don't release a key, the other one will stay in the envelope. If you release the key, then it will re-trigger the envelope. The filter for the beginning, and then it stays inside the filter because what you're doing, if you look at the notes playing, you see, you never release the key until you release here. You're always playing a key. So that's mono legato. These sounds here, I've got the solo legato, unison, many times the same notes, basically. Portamento on or off, timing for the portamento, and the mode you want the portamento to be normal or legato. If at any point when you're using this, the JD-800, you go, I'm not sure how it works or what this part of the synth is doing, well, go into menu and select help. It will open a PDF. You're going to get all the information about, detailed information about the JD-800. It's a really cool detailed PDF. And you got all the section here, what they do, and you got all the information. So if you're not sure what it does, go back to this manual and you can have all the information about all the section of the synthesizer. Pretty cool. Layer is basically one full synthesizer if you look at it, because you've got the section here, which is the wave generator, so the oscillator if you want. It's a rumpler, so it's going to play sample that Roland already did record, clean up, place on the keys. And you have control over the pitch, the coarse, the fine tuning, the random pitch, the key follow. Do you want it to follow the keys as you go up the keys? You want it to be higher and down the keys lower? Basically, do you want it to follow the chromatic scheme of notes? The wave gain. Remember that you can have 4 of them, so you would like to have separate controls over the 4 of them if needed. Let's say we pick the inatone, 129 inatone. You click on it. It's a very basic tone. You just have basically the sawtooth playing full blast. It's going to be easy to actually understand. So this is the pitch envelope, the wave generator, when you actually can pick the sample of the oscillator you want to play. Now understand that this is a recording of an oscillator, so there's no pulse width, but you have many different widths of the pulse. So pulse 1, 2, 3, up to 5. You basically have 4 different width of the pulse width, basically. And you've got 108 different samples that are burned into memory. So that it was called rumpler because it's read-only memory. You have these classic like synth saw and fat saw, and see, you hear that? You have coarse tuning. You get fine tuning here. You have random tuning. You get key follow for the tuning, which is by default normal key follow, because you go up the keys, it goes up by chromatic values. Now, if you want to use the LFO, you bring the LFO one here. You're actually using the rate here of LFO1 and the waveform to affect the pitch, because you're in the wave generator section, so you're affecting the waveform and the pitch. Now, let's say this is a vibrato. You want it to come in later. You've got a delay here you can use. Here, when you hold it, it stays before it goes into movement. And the fade would actually bring the vibrato in after the delay. Let's actually just get rid of the delay, and here's just the fade. So it becomes fading a little bit, and then it fades. It goes from 0 movement to more movement of the LFO moving. And if you bring the two together, well, you're gonna have, So this is how you would go about doing it. You've got these different waveform here. Key trigger means that every time you play the key, when you trigger it, it's going to start the LFO from 0 and always have the same shape. If you don't have the key trigger, the LFO is always moving, and when you play, it's just going to grab them where they are, which is also very fine, very analog-ish if you want. Sync, you can actually sync the rate to a musical value, okay, tempo-wise. Quarter note, half a note, all that stuff. Really cool. Let's go and look at the pitch envelope. This pitch envelope, you've got velocity, time key follow, and time velocity. I think the best way to explain is, I'll go with the envelope of the filter to explain how this one works, because this one is even more complex. The filter one is called a time variance filter. This one has been with the Roland family of synthesis for a long time. Time 1, level 1, time 2, level 2, time 3, sustain, time 4, level 4. You go, oh, wow, that's a lot more than just attack, decay, sustain, release. Yes, a lot more powerful. Time 1, you can basically change where it's going to start, but you also have a time 2, level 2, and time 3, then sustain, and time 4, level 4. So the filter doesn't have to close down. You could have a sustain that closes down, and then the release opens up. So you can have some really fun shaped envelope. So it's a lot more open than it used to be with attack, decay, sustain, release. So you can have like these weird shape. I'm gonna close the filter here and add some envelope to it. See, it takes a lot of time to open up to here, because it's a maximum. It's almost a minute, so I'm going to bring that shorter. You hear that? Wow. come here and then it jumps. So that is a slower coming in. What we can do, imagine we have a second one here. Let's actually change the second one to another sound. And if we second one, we cut a little bit of frequency. So what we have is on the first one, we have a cut of the frequency, actually on the second layer. And on the first layer, we have this sound coming in later. So what you hear is an evolution of sound, because we have the first, which is dull. But it's not that one that opens up. It's the other one that opens up. So that's where you start building this sound using these blocks of layers. So the envelope you have here goes way further than just an ADSR, because you might use it to just say that layer 2, I want it to come later, or I want it to open and then close and then appear on the end. So there's a lot more flexibility into making a layered sound with this. You've got velocity. You're basically going to affect, I'm going to turn off this so you're going to hear it. Let's say we're going to have this like that. If I play harder, the movement will be a lot more. If I play softer, it doesn't open as much, because the velocity is controlling the depth of the movement of the filter. Same thing with the TVA, and same thing with the pitch envelope. Now there's time velocity here. It means that if I play softer, the time will be longer. Let's say I'm going to bring the velocity down so we don't have this soft velocity and hard velocity. So if I play softer or harder, it will change the attack. So this could be really interesting in something like ensembles of strings, where you can play really fast or very soft. This kind of control is really interesting. It's basically going to affect the time 1. The time key follow, that one will change as you go up the keys. So if you go up the keys or down the keys, basically the time 2 and time 4 will be shorter or longer, depending how you want to do it, up or down. So let's say I'm going to time key follow up. If I go higher keys, it's going to be shorter. And then if I go lower keys, and if I go higher, if I change the other way around, if I go up now, see? So time 2 now is very fast because I'm in the high keys. If I go low on the keys, very low to close it down. It's still open. And it's closing very slowly, too slow. So you can control time 2 with this. Pretty interesting. So same logic. This is for TVF, TVA. They have the same control here. And always think about the fact that you're going to layer them together. They're going to stack up. So some of them you want them to come later on, before, and that's how it becomes really powerful. At the bottom of each of these envelopes, you have controls over the part that it controls itself. In the case of the filter, you've got the filter, the mode, it's high pass, band pass, and low pass. And you have a cutoff frequency and the resonance you can have. So it's actually pretty resonating. That's a band pass. So yeah, it becomes self-oscillating. And then you have how much the envelope is affecting that cutoff point, and key follow, and LFO, and aftertouch. And if you have LFO, select which one is going to affect this. You have also control about the volume and how it's going to change away from the bias point. A bias point is a point on the keys saying from that point up or that point down, I want the volume to go up or down. I want the, let's say you use 2 sounds to create a good piano sound, for example. You got 2 oscillators, one on layer 1, one on layer 2. And one you feel it sounds good in the low notes, and one sounds good in the high notes. Well, you can actually say the bias point, and when you you go away, so bias level, you would be able to say, well, as I go up the keys from that note, that sound will go down in volume, whereas the other one, you do the inverse. As I go up the keys from that same note, it will become louder. I'm going to do kind of a volume switching as I go up and down the keys. I'm going to switch gradually from one sound to the other, and that whole thing sounds a lot better than having the same sound from the low to the high note. So it's really a question of how you want to have it react, and that's one of the beauty of the JD-800 is how it's going to react. This complexity is really nice. On top of this notion of bias, you have the partial key range in the structure section. And this is really cool because you can definitely say, I'm going to play from, I don't know, C-1 to C4. That's going to be layer 1, and layer 2 is going to be from C4 to C9. The two sections would have two different sounds. I'm going to show you an example of this. I'm going to take split 4. Look at the partial 1 and 2. These are only over D4 and D sharp 4. Higher than that, you've got two type of, let's say, bell type of sound a little bit. But if I go lower in the keys, I'm actually triggering another sample, which is the sample for partial 4 here. So low keys, high keys. You're basically having two sounds split across the keyboard, because remember, a partial is like a full synthesizer. After all of this, you can go into the effects. You've got an EQ, and you've got multiple effects, or the multi-effects. You have a new one. You have access to everything that is part of the Xenology package, but you have the combination. The last one is JD Multi, and this one is these here and these over there. There's two groups. You go over the square of it, and then you can actually move them and change the order of these effects. So if you want a distortion before the phaser, that's where you put it. If you want it after, you put it after. And to turn them on, you click on it. That's how you start. Phaser. And you've got chorus, delay, and reverb. It's the second group. And again, these, you can change the order in which these are working. If you look at the top, you'll see that the EQ goes into the multi-effect group A and then into the multi-effect group B. This is the power of the JD-800. I hope it gives you more ideas and approach on how to make your own stuff with it. Pick a sound that you like, explore, play with it. I mean, don't be scared. Use it, play with it. You're not going to break anything. It's going to be fun, and you're going to learn a lot just by changing the sound that you find interesting into something great, and it's going to be yours. So go ahead, have fun. If you have any comments, put them below. Thank you for watching.